Throughout the world, people have claimed to see a giant hominid, arms as long as a gorilla's, standing upright and walking on 2 feet. Most sightings come after witnesses smell a foul smell. In the Himalayan mountains, large footprints of a bipedal creature have been photographed. Hairs and even the top of the head that is said to be of the creature have been discovered in temples. It is known there as the Yeti. In the outback of Australia, a creature similar to the Yeti has been spotted, said by some to be shy, and by others to be violent. There it is known as the Yowie. And in North America, reports of a large, hairy, man-like ape are everywhere. In the Florida Everglades, it is called the skunk ape. In the Pacific Northwest, it is known as Sasquatch. But most cryptozoologists link these sightings and these creatures to one another, stating it is a species of primate that has gone undiscovered around the globe. Whether you call it Yeti, Yowie, skunk ape, Sasquatch, or even Bigfoot, one thing is for certain. People are seeing something that, at times benign, and other times violent. Though I named its cousins the Yeti and the Yowie, I was using them as examples. This video is going to center on North America, Canada, the Pacific Northwest, and Florida to be exact. Sorry, if I went over all the others, we would be here for a while, and I don't want to have to spend 90 hours editing this video. Call me lazy, but I feel like talking about Sasquatch and skunk ape is at least more focused. When researching this video, I had a hard time figuring out where to start. So, I figured let's start with Native American folklore. First, the skunk ape. The Seminole tribe had a name for the skunk ape. Going to butcher it, but hell, I butchered the English language, so here we go. They called it Estecapaki, which translates into furry, tall man, or hairy giant. In their stories, the skunk ape is a foul-smelling, powerful, and secretive creature. Make your own Florida jokes here, because I really don't want to. That's really all I can find on the skunk ape. I googled skunk ape folklore and was bombarded with articles on recent sightings. There was one that I thought looked promising, but it was hidden behind a paywall. So I guess we can move on to the rest of the country. At the Tool River Reservation, you can find these petroglyphs. Made by the Yokuts, these are on what is called painted rock. As you can see, there appears to be a very hairy individual. Well, a couple of them to be exact. The petroglyph is called the Family. This petroglyph is also over 500 years old. In fact, most Native American cultures have legends of Bigfoot. Some say that he's a gentle giant. Others claim that he's a cannibal who steals children. But they never claim that he's an animal, rather a very large hairy man. Which is why I'm being stupid right now and calling him a he instead of calling him an it. Even the name Sasquatch, which is the anglicized version of the word Saskets, translates into hairy man. The Iroquois have legends of a beast with the name I am not going to attempt because I am really stupid. Anyways, the legend is of a man with rock-hard skin covered in hair called the Stone Giant. I should really go over some of the names Native Americans know him as, but some of them I can't for the life of me translate. So let's move on before I make myself look even more of a dumbass than I already am. Both skunk apes and Sasquatches are bipedal primates. Both are covered in long hair. Skunk ape's hair is reddish-brown, while Bigfoot is brown, black, or reddish-brown. Both are said to be really strong. Skunk apes are between 5 and 7 feet tall. Bigfoot are between 6 and 9 feet tall. But sometimes the descriptions for Bigfoots make them close to around 15 feet tall, which is a massive creature. Bigfoot have broad shoulders, no visible neck, and long arms. Researchers into the topic of Bigfoot suggest that Bigfoot is highly territorial. It will throw rocks as a warning, but also will bang on logs. which it also apparently does for communication, even though it is said to have a wide vocal range, and there are recordings of what it supposedly sounds like. I will give my opinion after I play it, but before I play it, so-called experts on shows consider this to be sounds no human can make, that the sounds itself are that of an unknown animal. It is called the Sierra Sounds due to it being recorded in Sierra Nevada in the 1970s. Yeah, to me it sounds human. It sounds like a human trying to mimic what a creature would sound like. But I am not an expert. I am just a humble armchair investigator that talks through an anthropomorphic fox, who has an owl on his shoulder. I leave it up to you. The other thing is the footprints. Some have been faked, but these massive footprints sometimes come off as legit. If you look on the bottom of your foot, much like your fingers, you have ridges that cause prints. And in some of those casts, experts have found ridges in the foot. And the way the footprint was made makes for compelling evidence that they are real. But there is more than just footprints on the ground and sounds in the dead of night to suggest something might be out there. But that comes down to either hoaxers or an unknown animal. Unlike the other videos I did this month, I want to focus on sightings from the 20th and 21st centuries. Sorry, Teddy Roosevelt fans, not going to talk about him in this one. No, Teddy didn't have an encounter with a Bigfoot. He heard a story that he was skeptical of. But first, let's look at Sasquatch sightings. One in particular I'm going to hold off for a moment. It involves a Patterson-Gimlin film, which I want to analyze. In 1924, the alleged Battle of Ape Canyon happened. Ape Canyon is a gorge near the southeast summit of Mount St. Helens. Miners in the canyon were attacked with rocks being thrown at them, pelting their cabin's roof with rocks from a cliff. These miners believed that it was a hairy wild man that was doing it. But a skeptic named William Halliday came up with his own ideas. In his 1983 pamphlet, Ape Cave and the Mount St. Helens Ape suggests a different type of miner was responsible. Miners, as in local kids. You see what I did there? Punny, wasn't it? I'll just see myself out. Oh shit, I can't. I have to finish this video. Also in 1924 is the story of Albert Ostman. Ostman was a lumberjack who was on vacation in British Columbia. He had heard tales of a wild man in the woods. He was a skeptic. Until one night he went to sleep and a Sasquatch picked him up and carried him off. For 3 hours, Ostman was carried by the Bigfoot. He was then held captive by the Sasquatch and 4 others, 2 adults, 2 children. For 6 days, he was stuck with his family of large hairy hominids, eating sweetgrass they gave him, until the 6th day when he gave one of them snuff, which is chewing tobacco if you didn't know, which made that Sasquatch tired. As it slept, he booked it the hell out of there. In the early 1990s, an anonymous person called 911 about a strange tall man in his backyard in Kitsap County, Washington, stating the suspect was tall and was wearing what the caller thought was black clothing. When the police showed up, they didn't find anyone. In fact, the only thing they did find was the caller, who informed them that in a previous encounter with the strange giant, he had thrown his dog over the fence and killed it. And then you have the Emerald Triangle. It's not a bad place if you really love weed. It is the places in North California where people grow weed. From the 1970s to the 1990s, people there reported sightings of Bigfoot, stating that a large, hairy, man-like creature was harassing and even killing people in the area. 3 migrant farm workers turned up dead in 1993. I can continue, but instead I'm going to, for a brief bit, show some of the Bigfoot footage that I could find, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about sightings of the skunk ape. the 1970s, Palm Beach County Sheriff's deputies Marvin Lewis and Ernie Milner were stalked by an unknown primate. The creature followed them through a grove. In fear for their lives, they opened fire. They weren't sure if they hit it, they just knew that they shot at something. When searching for a dead animal, they found a barbed wire fence with hair on it. The fence had been pushed down as if something was trying to get past it. From 1971 to 1975 in Broward County, a rash of sightings of the skunk ape happened. Multiple sources came forwards with accounts of seeing a 5-foot to 7-foot tall primate in the dead of night. Then you have this picture, taken in 2000. What you are seeing was sent to the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office by an anonymous source. It depicts an ape in the tall grass. A letter with the photos went on to tell the story. An elderly woman had noticed something stealing apples from her back porch. She was able to get the drop on it and took this photo, surprising the animal and her. She thought it was an escaped orangutan, which, to be fair, that is what it looks like. In fact, it is debated on what this is. An orangutan is a good explanation, but where did it come from? One skeptic suggests that this photo is fake because the primate looks a lot like a Bigfoot statue in Ripley's Believe It or Not museum, suggesting that this photo was photoshopped. But my opinion is that the photo is genuine. I work with Photoshop a lot, and while I'm not an expert, there are things about this photograph that point me to the conclusion that it's genuine. There's a plant in the foreground. Anyone who has used Photoshop will tell you that it is hard to match up lighting with multiple pictures. If you look, the leaf in the plant casts a shadow over the face of the primate, as well as over the body. To do this photo manipulation, you would have to be completely perfect. If the background is one photo, you would have to put the ape there and then erase a lot to make it look like it's behind the foliage in the foreground. That is hard to do. For instance, here's one of my works. I call it The Witch. You can tell it's Photoshop because I am not an expert and I only do it for fun. But I will say about this skunk ape picture, the eyes are really creepy. Just like with Bigfoot, I'm going to show some of the video footage of the skunk ape, then move on to that one famous film. In October of 1967, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin had an encounter that changed how we look at Bigfoot. Patterson had become interested in Bigfoot after reading an article about it in 1959. In May and June of 1967, he, along with Gimlin, had been shooting a docudrama about Bigfoot. The docudrama was about cowboys being led by an old miner and a Native American guide on a Bigfoot hunt, where the old miner is presumably Fred Beck, who was a miner in Ape Canyon when that sighting happened. The entire idea was to frame real stories of Bigfoot encounters with sort of a fictional narrative. In October of 1967, Gimlin and Patterson were headed to Six Rivers National Forest, where tracks of Bigfoot had been seen since 1958. Patterson was familiar with the area, having been there multiple times, and a rash of sightings in the area in 1967 had piqued his curiosity. On October 20th, 1967, they made their way along Bluff Creek on horseback. At a turn in the creek, they found a large tree that had been uprooted and was blocking their path. As they rounded it, they came across a logjam where they noticed something crouching behind it. The creature stood up and began to walk away. The horse Patterson was on reared up in fear. Patterson first calmed his horse, then pulled his film camera out of the saddlebag. Then he got off the horse and yelled for Gimlin to cover him as he raced after the Sasquatch. Gimlin got off his horse and drew a rifle but did not point it at the creature. Instead, he crossed the creek and watched as Patterson filmed. As the Sasquatch walked, it turned and looked towards the men before walking off. When the Sasquatch had seemingly left, Patterson and Gimlin gathered their horses because they had run off in fear, and they tracked the creature for 1 mile to 3 miles before calling off the search. Finding tracks, they made plaster molds of them. The Sasquatch in the film is reportedly around 6 foot 6 inches tall, and is female. This is according to people who have noticed that it had breasts. This film, though, has people split on its authenticity. A lot of people claim that it is a person in an ape costume. Some say that the way the creature moved would be hard for a human to do, which to them, I ask how. Rick Baker, who works in Hollywood on special effects, stated of the film, "It looks like cheap, fake fur." And Rick Baker kinda worked on Harry and the Hendersons, which is about a Bigfoot, so he would know a thing or two. He also claimed that the suit could have come from John Chambers, who was another special effects guy who worked on Planet of the Apes. John Chambers said of that, "I'm good, but I'm not that good." Rick Baker would change his stance on this also, stating he no longer believes that John Chambers made the suit. This was probably because John Chambers stated that he didn't and thought if it was a suit, then it was one of the best made suits he'd ever seen. About the film, an anthropologist named David Daling said, "The skeptics have not felt compelled to offer much of a detailed argument against the film. The burden of proof, rightly enough, should lie with the advocates." Daling argues that the film hasn't gone away because those skeptical do not come up with fully detailed arguments. The skeptic's argument boils down to that it's a person in an ape costume, which that might be the case, but people who believe this video is authentic will point out that the stride is wide, how the hair, skin, and muscle of the creature seems to move with every step, and the fact that the creature turns half of its body in order to see, suggesting that it is fluid and natural. Both Patterson and Gimlin have denied being part of a hoax. In fact, Gimlin had avoided the publicity of the film. He only spoke 3 times between 1970 and 2005. He now does appearances once in a while, but he is old and those are getting rare. With the video, I'm 50-50. It could be a person in a costume, or it could be real. I have heard both sides of the argument and I'm still not convinced either way. Something strange or a hoax, I don't know. But I leave it up to you. What do you think? Experts in the fields of biology, zoology, and all those smarty pants type all pretty much say the same thing. While footprints, hair samples, video, and photo evidence is compelling, it isn't enough. Things like these can be hoaxed. In fact, it's very easy to hoax them. A body needs to be discovered to prove that Sasquatch is real, and no body of Sasquatch has ever been discovered, which those who believe Bigfoot is real suggest that Bigfoot buries its dead. The other issue with the existence of Sasquatch is the environments it is found. Food sources are a major issue. In the winter, food sources are scarce, which is why some large animals, like bears, hibernate. It's the same with even small animals like squirrels. So how would a large creature sustain itself through months where it could be hard to find a meal? Do Sasquatch hibernate during the winter months? Are tracks found in the snow authentic or hoaxes? This doesn't rule out the skunk ape though. As Florida is tropical, food sources aren't as scarce. Jane Goodall said it best when she did an interview for the NPR show Science Friday. She said, "Well, now you will be amazed when I tell you that I'm sure that they exist. But before you are wondering what Jane Goodall is smoking or glad that she is on your side, there is more." Well, I'm a romantic, so I always wanted them to exist. You know, why isn't there a body? I can't answer that. And maybe they don't exist, but I want them to. She later added onto this in the Huffington Post. "I'm fascinated and would actually love for them to exist. Of course, it's strange that there have never been a single authentic hide or hair of the Bigfoot, but I've read all the accounts. Jane Goodall is the most credible primatologist out there. This woman spent 60 years studying the social interactions of wild chimpanzees in Tanzania, so it's quite cool that she wants Bigfoot to be real, but knows it might not." As with every cryptid I have covered this month, only fair to look at what animals people could be misidentifying as Bigfoot. First, bears. The most likely bear being the black bear, which differs from the brown bear greatly. They are less aggressive than brown bears. Black bears also have been known to walk upright on 2 legs, usually due to injury, and anyone who has seen a black bear knows these are not small animals. They can get up to 7 feet tall on their hind legs. Brown bears, or grizzly bears as you prefer, are also considered a possible explanation. On their hind legs, brown bears can be as tall as 9 feet. Another possibility is escaped apes. Let's look back at that skunk ape photo. This could be what the elderly woman who took the photo thought it was, an escaped orangutan. In fact, if there's escaped apes in Florida, the climate is perfect for it. Scientists have stated that if there were apes in America, escaped or otherwise, the perfect place would be Florida. The last of the animal theories is us, humans. In 2013 in Oklahoma, a man shot his friend in the back while a group of friends were hunting Bigfoot. Apparently, the way the man dressed, mixed with the environment they were in, gave an impression that there was a Sasquatch there, when it was just their friend. In 2017, a shaman wearing clothes made of animal fur was vacationing in North Carolina. While he was there, a bunch of Bigfoot sightings were called into local police, and it all went back to this one man in furs. The last explanation is there really is nothing there, but the way that the photo or video was taken makes it look like there's something there. This is called pareidolia, which I have covered in the past, but a refresher course for all you awesome new people. Hi, you deserve a cookie. Pareidolia is the tendency to perceive a specific, often meaningful image in a random or ambiguous visual pattern according to the dictionary. As an example of pareidolia, watch any ghost hunting YouTube channel. Most of their evidence is what they think they are seeing. A mist that looks like a face is most likely just a mist. The movement of a shadow in a video could be just the trick of the light. But that is all the misidentifications I really want to cover. Now let's look at some theories about Bigfoot. Theories that are just batshit insane. This is going to be short because honestly my brain hurts thinking of some of these. Theory number 1. Bigfoot is an extinct animal known as Gigantopithecus. Problem is, Gigantopithecus was more closely related to orangutans and looked nothing like the common descriptions of Bigfoot. Theory number 2. The missing link. That Bigfoot is related to humans due to a species of ape that we both evolved from. And that species is the missing link between apes and humans. Problem with that is, the missing link is hypothetical, and most likely there is no missing link in the evolution of humans. Theory number 3, that Bigfoot is from another dimension and just poofs into existence through teleporting through the multiversal plane. Not touching that one. I think someone came up with it as a joke, but there are some sites that have this on it. And finally, theory number 4, Bigfoot is an alien. Because for some reason, if we cannot explain it in the natural world, it has to be from the stars. This has to do with some Bigfoot sightings being spotted alongside UFOs, which no, stop putting aliens in everything. No, bad people. But those are some of the fringe theories, and all of them really don't make any sense. I am in the camp of Jane Goodall. I want Bigfoot to exist. But if it doesn't, I know why. It is such an interesting creature, and very much deserving of being one of the more famous cryptids. But even if it doesn't exist, we should appreciate Bigfoot. So tonight, go take a shower with some Dr. Squatch, then sit down and watch Harry and the Hendersons while eating some Jack Link's beef jerky.